Hello, my beautiful people. We have another podcast episode today. We are going to be knitting, but as you can see, my cake collapsed into this insane knot. So we're going to be spending the first part of this just detangling. I've been feeling kind of like rejuvenated. That sounds like a dumb word. Just like reinvigorated to record the podcast. These two really sweet girls came up to me in Manhattan like a week or two ago. And it really does make my day when people are that excited to see me because I'm like, guys, it's just me. And they're like, we love your podcast. And I'm like, how does this podcast have fans when it's like the least prolific podcast ever? Comes out once a month. I'm pretty sure we like just hit the 10 episode benchmark. But for today, I wanted to do a little Q&A. I just feel like I haven't like had much heart-to-heart chat time with you guys. I used to reply to all my YouTube comments, but I've been trying to avoid my comment sections a little bit more recently because, I don't know, some of the negative comments have been getting to me more than they usually do. So yeah, I asked on my Instagram story for some questions, and you guys asked some good ones. Thank God. I remember when I used to work in banking, even though it was like 10% of my content on TikTok, every time I went live on TikTok, it was just like, how did you get into banking? How did you get into banking? What should I do to prepare for banking interviews? And I was like, leave me alone. Now I have the questions on here. Okay, I'm going to answer this one because it's like a question that I always get without fail. And that is when I started crocheting. I'm sure I've answered this at some point on this channel, but I learned knitting from my grandma when I was in maybe like first or second grade, like really, really young. Actually, first my mom tried to teach me, but she's a working mother. It takes a lot of time to teach someone to knit because I feel like the first few weeks you're just like repeatedly fucking up. So she was the one who had the patience to teach me. And to be honest, I don't really remember how I started learning crocheting. I felt like after learning knitting, it was like so easy for me to pick it up. I think I kind of learned online. I don't know. It was when I was so young that I genuinely don't have a good memory of it. And another question I get a lot is when I started freestyling. And this is going to sound so cocky, but like I never had a phase of my life where I like started with tutorials and patterns and then was like, okay, I feel ready to freestyle. Like not conversely. I'm basically saying it's kind of the opposite, where I feel like I did a lot of freestyling and then I started becoming aware of the existence of patterns once I was older, and then I started following them. But the answer to like when I started freestyling was like, that's just kind of how I started. And it's not that I think freestyling is easy, but I think a lot of it is just trial and error, which I have always been very willing to do. And I started off sewing growing up. Well, I kind of did them all at the same time, but I did a lot more sewing. So I feel like the kind of 3D garment construction aspect of it has always felt very intuitive to me. I did get a question about like, would I ever get into sewing? And I'm like, guys, my first content, the way I started content was me just like posting one random thrift flip on TikTok and it popping off. So if anything, I'm OG sewing content creator. I'm not that good at sewing though. I think I'm similar to knitting and crochet. I'm good with the ideas and the execution is highly questionable. This other question I got that I really liked was tips for solo dates. I don't know if I'm the best person to answer this because I have always really enjoyed spending time alone. Like I really identify as an introvert. The way I put it is like around the right people, I truly love socializing and it can bring me energy, but I will always get sick of being around people and I rarely get sick of being alone. I had a great time. Well, not a great time during COVID. I was having a really bad time, but the aspect where I couldn't see a lot of people was honestly kind of a relief for me. Tips for solo dates. I guess you do kind of have to like romanticize it. Think about things that you really enjoy doing, but that will have a different lens or experience if you do it alone. So I think a really good example is like museums. I love going to museums with people. I think discussing what you see and like laughing at the like really weird, ugly painted babies with your friends is really, really fun. But I think going to a museum alone is a completely distinct experience. Like I remember when I was studying abroad in Copenhagen, I went to the Natural History Museum, and obviously it's like too big to go through everything. But instead of just strolling, I literally like went through in the order that like it was designed to go in and read like every single plaque. And that's just something where I think you truly get like a unique perspective if you go alone versus with other people. And then, things that are easy. Like I know some people feel really weird about eating alone, which I don't understand at all. I love eating alone. I feel like I can really enjoy my food, although it is kind of annoying because you can't try as much stuff. But, like go to a cafe and read or go to a park. Like I think if you're not used to spending time alone, it's nice to go places where there are also a lot of other people who are alone, if that makes sense. Another thing I will say is like, I don't even think I'm like really final boss level spending time alone, because I do usually have my earbuds in and I'm listening to a podcast or I'm listening to an audiobook. Like I am still feeding myself content. I'm not that great at like truly being in the moment. But I just think like you can really focus on your surroundings and take it all in a different way. I don't think like one or the other is better. They're just different experiences. Like that's also how I feel about traveling alone. I feel like I really took in the views and the places I was seeing so much more. But obviously you don't get like the fun and the laughter and the memories of spending time with people. I think a healthy mix of both is good. But for people who don't naturally like spending time alone, there is definitely something in like just forcing yourself to do it, training yourself in it, incentivizing yourself by making it things that you really enjoy doing. And I think anyone can learn to find the joy in it eventually, even if you do prefer to be around people. Okay, this question is very apt. It was like, do you ever get into a crochet rut? Lol, probably not. And like, does fiber art still make you happy? Do you feel fulfilled? What a loaded question. So I have been in, I would say it's just a general rut. I don't think it's a crochet knitting rut. I still love making garments and making pieces, but I think the aspect of like thinking about a project that I can format into a video and I have like a good title and thumbnail for, and then having to crochet and knit in high enough of a volume to finish the project in time for the video to go up. Like I'm definitely getting burnout from all that. I've definitely lost the joy of like casually working on something, and that can make you not want to do it at all. Like that's just the nature of turning something into your job. But I don't think creatively I really ever get into a rut, because I think it's important to like give yourself grace with how creative you're asking yourself to be. So for example, sometimes I really want to do something super like fun and novel. I have this idea to like crochet like a lantern, kind of like those Japanese paper lanterns, but crochet. And that's example of like feeling really inspired and excited. I mean, I obviously have not done it, so I don't know how inspired I actually am. But there's that. And then there's like what I'm working on now, which is like making a just kind of loose sweater for the 14th millionth time. Sometimes you just need to do something mindless. And then sometimes it's really important to like also push yourself, because I think if you just don't struggle and learn new things, you will also get tired of crochet that way. In terms of feeling fulfilled, I don't know if I should admit this to y'all, but I just have to be honest. Like the main reason that I pursue this as a career isn't necessarily because it brings me fulfillment. It's because it gives me the lifestyle I want. Not because like I don't care about the impact that I have on y'all's life, but it's kind of hard to feel fulfillment for the impact you have on people you don't know. And that's why it is really meaningful to like, interact in person with people who watch your content and be like, oh, these are real people, or like get messages from specific individuals about like how they're going through a hard time and they, kind of escape it all by watching my videos. But in general, like it's day to day, it's very easy to get kind of like jaded or just indifferent to that. So I think like the biggest part of the fulfillment of my job is honestly less so that like inspiring people to crochet and knit. I think it's more so like these podcast episodes, like giving someone a voice they can relate to that they might not have in their own life. And then like the creative fulfillment of making stuff, because I definitely make like more difficult and more complex stuff. and constantly level up my skill set because this is my job and because I feel like I need to keep pushing like interesting content. I definitely would be making a lot more of like the same shit if I was truly just doing it for myself. So in that sense, I really appreciate the push that it gives me that I've like made my hobby my job. Okay, someone asked if I'm single. Someone asked if I'm still in the dating trenches. The answer is unfortunately yes. I feel like I kind of allude to that on my Instagram. And then someone asked what my best piece of dating advice is. Not sure if you should be asking the perpetually single girl for dating advice, but okay, this is a piece of advice that I don't follow at all, so highly theoretical. But I think what's helpful, especially if you are like using dating apps, is to try not to think about dating as like a means to an end. Something I've honestly really been working on is trying to tell myself that it'll be okay if I don't find someone, because it's very hard to not be an anxious dater when I really, really want to have a life partner, but it's something that's ultimately out of my control. Like, that's why it is like honestly the biggest trigger for me when it comes to like my depression, because it feels like something that I have told myself is so key to my happiness, but that I can't guarantee will happen. And so even though I would like to have a partner, I'd like to have kids, I am trying to tell myself that if it doesn't work out, I will be okay. Not because I don't want to keep working towards like my ideal future, but because, if I think that that has to happen or I won't be happy, it will drive me insane. Wait, that wasn't my advice. Sorry, back to my advice. Not thinking about it as a means to an end, because at least for me, like I can't really tell if I'm attracted to someone until I meet them in person. So I'd say like if I go on like 10 first dates off Hinge, I will probably only click with one. And, as someone who like has enough friends, I'm not trying to make new friends, I'm an introvert. That is very exhausting, right? To be meeting all these people. And when people say dating is fun, I'm like, if every person I went on a date with I liked, then yeah, it would be fun. But I'm just meeting these people that I'm not attracted to and that I don't have a romantic spark with. And so I try to think of it as like kind of just an anthropological study. And honestly, like dating apps are one of the few kind of socially normal ways to just meet a bunch of random people. And I've met people with like very, very different backgrounds, different careers. Like I was like, I don't even casually seeing this guy in the Bay Area who was like a sommelier and like worked in the restaurant industry. And I learned so much from him about that industry, about their lifestyle, about like food and beverage as art. I think it's still valuable, even if you only go on one date with people, just to like learn about different perspectives, learn about people that you would never meet in your circles, and obviously like learn about yourself and what you want in a person. That's the best advice I can give you, because I think if you're thinking about it like I'm playing a numbers game and I'm just trying to find the one, it is going to get very exhausting and not be very fun. Another dating related question I got is, do you think like being extremely independent has affected your dating life? Which is a loaded question. I feel like I could do an entire podcast episode on that. That is like a perception. My mom like says this thing to me that like really pisses me off, or she hasn't said it to me recently, but she's like, oh, you're too independent. Men want a girl they can like save, or that makes them feel needed. And yes, I get annoyed at her because she is like such a girl boss that I'm like, how can you say that? But honestly, the men I say that to, the ones who are being honest at least, are like, she's right. And it doesn't mean that you need to be a damsel in distress, but I feel like men really do like want to feel needed. Hot take, but I think that's why so many guys like crazy girls, because like they're clingy and insane, but it makes them feel like this girl can't live without them, Whereas if you meet me, I will make it extremely clear that I can't live without you. And often I'm like, I was living better without you. Thank you very much. I mean, it's affected my dating life in the sense that I do have very high standards. Like if your life is awesome alone and you're looking for someone who will, and again, I don't mean this in like a purely transactional way, but like someone who will make your life better, not necessarily by like, being your manservant, but by, bringing you laughter or bringing their intelligence or, doing, in my case, like acts of service to make your life easier, or just someone to enjoy life with, bring something that I don't already have from my amazing like platonic friends, that's like a high bar to set. And I don't think my standards are high in the sense that I have like all this crazy on paper stuff, but I think finding someone that you are like really compatible with and attracted to and who's like a good person and is looking for the same things in life, like that's not an easy thing to find. And I've honestly said this, like people are like, Grace, don't settle. I'm like, don't worry about me settling because I'm incapable of settling. To be honest, like being 28, if I could settle right now, I would consider it. Just like be with someone that I'm not like deeply in love with, but who will treat me well and help take care of me. But I'm literally incapable of it. Like if I don't really, really like someone and enjoy their presence, I will get so fucking annoyed and not be able to be around them more than like 5 seconds. So it's honestly not an option. And so I've never really had the struggle of like dating someone just to fill the void or just because I'm lonely. I'm not capable of it. And I don't believe in the idea that someone should be like fully healed and in their final state to date someone. I don't think you need to be like fully healed or evolved to deserve love. But I do think building a healthy relationship is a lot easier if you have the confidence and knowledge that you have an amazing life alone. Because, and of course, this is very easy for me to say now, like once you're further into a relationship, of course you feel like you can't live without this person. But, you know, having this knowledge that worst comes to worst, I will be okay. And having a set structure and practice of taking care of yourself and not having someone else take care of you. I do think it's really healthy, but yeah, it definitely doesn't make dating easier in the sense of like being able to find men that I think are worth, you know, bringing into my life. I mean, like, there just aren't a lot of men that are worth bringing into my life. Okay, sorry, that's a truth. This one made me laugh. Someone was like, oh, what are your thoughts on a follower or subscriber setting you up with someone? Listen, I'm open. Honestly, this is a casting call. If you know a man who is 26 to 32, they don't have to be in New York. I don't need to see you all the freaking time. And you feel like they're a good person and they're not ugly. Sorry, I am superficial. I'm not going to date an uggo. But sometimes I'm attracted to people who aren't conventionally attractive. Okay, so don't rule anyone out. And they can handle a confident woman with the somewhat savage sense of humor. Slide into my DMs. I'm ready. I'm going to host a dating show for myself. Ooh, this is a fun question. My death row meal. I'm surprised I've never been asked this, or I've been asked this by my friends, but like not from a follower, I think. Okay, I it's too hard to narrow down to one thing, so I'm just gonna make this like a crazy multi-course thing. Stuff that comes to mind, probably like sun cai yu. It's like this Chinese dish. I don't remember what they call it in English, but it's like really spicy and sour fish dish with like vermicelli glass noodles in it. And I want like the proper Sichuan one that's like super, super spicy and super, super sour. That shit is so good. My dad makes like tang. It's like, I think it's actually like a Russian soup. I have like no understanding of why I grew up with this soup actually. I think he just like randomly learned to make it and we just like always had it. But it's an oxtail soup, like tomato base, and he puts in like onions and potatoes and other veggies. And the oxtail just like falls off the bone and it's so flavorful. And I just like really associate it with my childhood. It's like one of my favorite things my dad makes. Kind of whack that I chose something that's not Chinese though, out of all the dishes my dad can cook. Well, a Chinese thing he makes that I really love is juliang tangyuan. It's like this fermented rice dish and then you put like little sticky rice balls in it. It's like a dessert. So freaking yummy. Definitely a ton of fruit. Y'all know how much I love fruit. This knot is driving me crazy, guys. No knitting is going to take place in this video. Boba, obviously. Or maybe instead of boba, like a purple rice drink. I don't know if y'all are familiar with this. It actually sounds really weird if you haven't had it. But it's like a yogurt drink and then it has like purple rice in it as the solid. It's so, so freaking good. There's definitely a lot of other things I love, but that's what I have on the top of my mind. Just like any noodle dish. Also like pho. Ooh, papaya salad. I love papaya salad. Oh, but I also love Indian food. Oh my God, like some South Indian food. a curry would be so good. Okay, now I'm just like listing all my favorite foods. That's a few courses of my death row meal. I remember fried chicken used to be on there, but I think my antidepressants gave me an ick for meat. So now I don't really crave meat that much. Speaking of that, I got a lot of questions about like mental health advice, tips on dealing with my depression. I need to do a full podcast episode on my depression. I have diagnosed depression. I'm currently on antidepressants, but I'm like very much still messing around in my dosage. And I just want to be really careful about talking about my experience because I don't want it to push someone to try medication who shouldn't, or push someone who should try medication to not, just based on my experience, you know? And it's just like a very loaded topic. I don't know how much advice I really have because the fact that I've been struggling with it my whole life, and even with my medication, like clearly I have not cracked the code. Not that there is a code to mental health, but it's definitely something that needs like a designated episode. So maybe once I'm a little bit more mentally stable, I will record that. Someone asked, do you worry about returning to corporate with like a longer gap? And kind of along those lines, someone also asked if I would ever quit social media and why. The answer to this is that I don't think about this. The truth is like, I don't want to go to corporate or go back to corporate. I have no desire to, but at the same time, like I have to make like an extremely long-term career out of this or I will have to go back to corporate. I think when I got into the content thing, I just knew I had to like not think about the future and not let the idea of having to go back to corporate loom over my shoulder, because that was like driving me insane and making me feel like I had to make $1 million right now, or I had to like, you know, go back to where I came from, go back to like a corporate job that I hate. The truth is it's not that black and white. I think there probably is a corporate job, not that would like be perfect and make me fulfilled and happy and give me $1 million. But, you know, one that I like a little bit more, the last job I had was like revenue operations at a construction software company. You know, like we were still very far from a job that I would enjoy. Honestly, like I think the first job I had, which was investment banking at Goldman Sachs in the consumer retail group, was probably closer to what I enjoyed. I actually really liked the work I did. The hours were just insane. And so I think the struggle is just like jumping industries and moving around within corporate, and the fact that I was like struggling to get into more like marketing brand related roles just because I had a finance background. But you know, there's a reality in which I work in corporate and I'm not like wanting to stab my eyes out. Wait, I'm not answering the question. Do I worry about it? I mean, yeah, of course I worry about it. The way I'm thinking about it now is like I probably would not go back trying to continue on the path that I was on. If anything, I would try to maybe like do something more corporate, but within the creator space. So like, I don't know, brand consulting or like becoming a talent manager myself, like the manager that I have. Just, I think like taking that route would get me closer to a corporate job I like. And so in that sense, I don't think like the gap would be as relevant. Like I'm definitely not going to go back to finance. I never wanted to stay in that. And would I ever quit social media? It's a really interesting question that it's not that I haven't thought about it, but when you actually ask me to imagine it, I'm like, I don't know. I guess the one thing that would make me stop is but I don't think I would like completely lose my audience. I guess if like I didn't really have like a devoted audience that was watching me anymore, that would probably make me want to stop, or that'd make me post more to grow it back again. I don't know. The most likely thing is just like entering a different life phase. Like I think if I had children, I know people, first of all, I want to be a mommy vlogger. I know people manage to still create content, but like that just sounds really overwhelming to me, and I definitely would not want my children on the internet in like any way, shape, or form. So that's the main thing I can think of that would like really take me off a social media presence. One person asked how I align politically, which kind of offended me because I would think that it's pretty clear. Like I know I don't talk about it a lot on here, but I talk about it a decent amount on Instagram. So I'm happy to make it very clear. I lean very left. I believe in reproductive rights. I believe in trans rights. I mean, just like all queer rights, LGBTQ rights. Notice how all of these are not even political stances. They're just stances on human rights. This is something that I posted about recently in relation to the assassination of Charlie Kirk. I don't condone that. I'm never going to celebrate someone's death. And this like assassination of public figures is not good for either side. It's just moving us further into a fascist direction. Like, I don't think it's a win for the left or the right. You know, it's not a win for anyone. But I also made it very clear, I'm like, this is someone who did not believe in basic human rights, who viewed Black people as subhuman, who believes that like women who claim to have been sexually assaulted are liars, who didn't believe in empathy. I was like, why are we trying to have empathy for a man who literally said he doesn't believe in empathy? I also really did not appreciate people calling him a man of God. I grew up Christian. I memorized full books of the Bible. I know the scripture. And the religion has just, you know, been co-opted by American nationalists to promote their agenda. And they've completely lost the sight of the actual teachings of Christianity. Like, if Charlie Kirk is a man of God, then you're not talking about the same God as I am. And I want nothing to do with your God. So, you know, I truly am open to people having different political and religious views. I think that's so important and part of the beauty of America. And there was a time in my life when I was like fine with moderates and conservatives because it really was like a policy issue of like, you know, how funding should be allocated, not like, do people have the right to exist? Art has always been political, and I'm a woman. I'm a person of color. My parents are immigrants. My friends are queer as fuck. So it should be very clear where I stand. You know, like, fuck ICE, free Gaza. So if you want to unfollow me for that, feel fucking free. I am trying to build a community where everyone can at least feel safe to exist. Okay? Glad we can clear that up. Okay, let's turn to something a little bit lighter. Someone asked about my favorite restaurants in Irvine, which is actually very apt because, well, I'm not flying straight home. I'm flying to New Mexico and then I'm flying home and I'm going to be back in Irvine for a little bit. Let me think about this. I mean, a classic is A&J. It's this beef noodles. Well, they do like general, is it Taiwanese or Chinese? Oh, damn. I should know that. It's one of the two. And they are like an institution of Irvine because I've been there since I was 4. So I've been more or less around Irvine for 24 years. That's so cursed. I wish I didn't do that math. But our restaurants are like always coming and going because it's very competitive to be there. And that's like one of the only restaurants that like I ate at as a child that's still there. Their beef noodle soup, just all the noodle soup dishes are fucking amazing. And what I really love about them is they have these Mexican servers who work there, and it's been the same servers forever. Like, it's, I don't know, it's just like so comforting also to go back to a hometown where things are changing and have one thing that like that's like stayed the exact same, you know? Oh, this knot. If you're watching the audio version, if you're listening, you can't see, but I'm still trying to untangle this knot and I feel like I'm not even making any progress. Other restaurants I love. Okay, this isn't really a restaurant, but there was a boba shop that I think is now closed, which I don't understand why, called Orobe, that is like hands down my favorite boba shop. I didn't think I was that much of like a boba elitist because for SoCal I'm not, but obviously for New York I'm like such an elitist. They do like a proper milk tea, because a proper milk tea, it should have like the actual roasted tea flavor and then you add milk. It's not just like this sugary, like, you know, like tiger sugar where it's just like brown sugar, boba, blah, blah, blah. It's like a roasted oolong and it's so freaking good. And I don't know why they closed because they had like the most insane business. Other food places, there is this Korean soup place. Oh God, why don't I remember the name? I'm literally planning to eat there when I go home. Wait, let me look it up. It's actually kind of close to where I live. Not me revealing my hometown home area, but it is, I love Korean soup. Like Korean soup honestly kind of rivals Chinese food for my comfort food. Don't cancel me. And if you live in New York, you know, there's not like, because there's not a lot of kind of like generation above us Koreans here. It's a lot of like Koreans in my generation. So it's a lot of like fusion modern food, but it's not like LA K-Town where they have like food that really tastes like the food you get in Korea, like made by immigrants. And so I always try to get good Korean soup when I'm back in LA or Irvine. Oh, I'm so dumb. It's called Tong 190. And it's so freaking good. Every time I go back, the prices go up though. Also, the servers will literally see me come in like consecutive days and they're definitely like, dude, what is this girl's problem? But their soups are just, they're so good. And then a lot of my other favorite restaurants have closed, sadly. I don't know. I don't get like that excited about going back to Irvine to eat because obviously like New York also has amazing food. I feel like when I lived in Philly, I was like a lot more keen to go home because we had Chinatown, but we didn't have like a bunch of really, really good food on the actual Penn campus. This question was really interesting. Someone asked, do you see yourself staying in New York long term? It's funny to me what you guys think to ask because that's something that like my friends ask me all the time, but I'm like, it's just interesting to me that someone who only watches me is curious about that. I think if I were to move, I would either move overseas and do like a stint in another country. That's something I've thought about a lot because I have the flexibility to do that with my career. Or I would move to Chicago. I think if my sister and brother-in-law end up there long term, she's doing like a 1-year fellowship in Columbus. And then she'll become an attending and we'll find out where she's like working. Yeah, if they end up in Chicago, that would also sway me a lot. I think I will end up back in California. And if I were to like have kids, for example, I would definitely want to be back in California closer to my parents to get their help. But I don't really feel ready to go back to the West Coast now. I also think like New York is pretty intertwined with my career right now. Like I'm definitely, going to a lot of events, making connections, getting brand deals that way. And like the friends who are like taking a lot of my content, right? Like Emily, Marissa, they're here. Like if I lived somewhere where I didn't have as many friends, I don't think that'd be an issue for me. Like I don't think I'd get lonely, but having other content creator friends is really kind of integral to how I do my work and just makes you feel more like, it's like having coworkers, I think doing it in a completely isolated way somewhere can definitely drive you a little bit crazy because you're just like mostly talking to the camera and like no one else can kind of relate to your very bizarre job. So I think that's the main thing that's keeping me here. And like all my friends are here. I think if a lot of like my kind of long-standing New York friends started leaving, that would also make me think about it. I mean, I love New York. The only thing that ever makes me want to leave is how expensive it is and how bad the dating here is. But I've also dated in a lot of other cities with no success, so that might just be a me problem. Haha. No, but the dating culture here is actually like unhinged and I don't even want to talk about it. But yeah, like if I lived in Chicago, I'd be paying like literally less than half of my rent right now. And so it would allow me to A, like save a lot more money and B, like travel more without feeling guilty. Right now, I mean, I do still travel a lot, but I think about like the rent that I'm paying here. I don't really sublet because I have a roommate. Whereas if I lived alone in Chicago, I could just be like, okay, I'm paying like under $1,000 in rent. If I go travel for a few weeks, it's not, financially as silly. Okay, this is like a really, really good question. Someone asked, how well do you think your followers know you on like a percentage basis? This is tricky because I think like on paper, just pure facts, information wise, you guys, assuming you've consumed every piece of my content, know a lot, right? I've talked about a lot of my past situationships. I've talked about my mental health issues, my family, all my different careers. But if someone listened to literally everything, I would say they maybe know me like 50% as well as my friends. Definitely not any higher than that. Just because, the way I present to the camera is very limited. I really try and be on for you guys. And there's just like so much that I can't talk about on here, right? Like I've had really bad friendship breakups that I wouldn't talk about on here with dating. I'm obviously trying to keep everyone's identity out of it. More like personal family stuff I'm not going to talk about on here. And also just like trauma aside, like seeing all my different kind of modes, I guess. Like you guys see me when I'm talking about like creating or like crocheting outfits. And I guess you guys kind of know like what media I consume, and you've seen me when I'm traveling. I guess you guys do know a lot about me. I think the main thing is just like seeing me not when I'm on, right? Like what I'm like when I'm sad, angry, depressed. Also just like all those things that you would never admit online. I really do share a lot though. So if you listen to a lot of like the personal stuff that I talk about, you probably do know me pretty well. And some of my friends have really bad memory, so maybe you know more about me than they do. I got a lot of questions related to like my childhood, getting into an Ivy League school, advice for high schoolers, advice for college apps. I'm not gonna lie, guys, this is kind of a long time ago. It has literally been a decade since I graduated high school. Wow, that's sobering. How should I tackle this? So my upbringing, I've mentioned this before, was definitely like very overachiever, Asian immigrant child. My mom wasn't a tiger mom at all. She really like didn't talk down to me or anything like that, like really sweet, really encouraging. But at least the way I felt was that like everything was about getting into college. It kind of changed in high school because my older sister got into an Ivy and my parents were like, actually, this is not all it's cracked up to be. So if you want to like take a less prestigious route, honestly, that's fine. But by then it was too late because I'd already spent like most of my life just being focused on college apps. So, you know, I had a good childhood and I think I was blessed to have a lot of community. Like I had my church community, and because I had to do so many extracurriculars for college apps, I had communities there like marching band, FBLA, which is Future Business Leaders of America. I do think like I was a little bit like emotionally and socially stunted because I had friendships, but they were like very circumstantial. I think because like I didn't drive and there was no concept of like purely social time growing up. Like I got a lot of it through my extracurriculars, but there wasn't like, oh, I'm going to go hang out with a friend. Like I didn't do that until my senior year. And so I think I lacked social skills in terms of like making new friends, how to behave in like broader social situations, how to like intentionally be a good friend and show up for people. And I definitely was in this like very academic elitist bubble where I was like way too judgmental about stuff like that. So it's like hard for me to give advice about high school because when I think back to high school me, I literally feel like I'm thinking back to a different human being. Like I don't even really identify with that bitch anymore. But I guess my advice for high school, it's hard because I have no idea what this person's high school experience is like right now. I would just say that the real legit people peak way after high school. My perspective on high school was like, get through it. I was like stressed as hell all the time, but try to make some good memories, stay in touch with the right people after you leave, and just know that it's so not formative or reflective of who you're going to be, what you're going to achieve, and what life is going to look like for you. Because if high school me was representative of where I was going, I guess in some ways it was. I was like still really into my creative hobbies back then, but I don't know who the fuck that bitch was. So, you know, don't anchor too much on it. And in terms of college apps, my advice, and this is like, this is going to sound so cheesy, but try approximately to be authentic to yourself. Like I went to a very STEM heavy high school and my mom was definitely trying to package me in a more STEM way because she's Chinese and she's like, well, everyone knows that physics and bio is harder than like history and lit, which I mean, for me was very much the case. I'm not a STEM girly. And so I remember my junior year, she wanted me to work in a chem lab and I was like, why on God's green earth would I do that? So I ended up starting this like little brand business thing. Okay, sorry. I was trying to reset up my camera because it's getting so dark. It's 2:48 p.m. Why does it look like the sun is setting? It's like the gloomiest freaking day ever. I'm so glad I'm getting out of here. But what was I saying? Oh, yeah, my college application and my essay and everything revolved around me wanting to like start a business and the fact that I really hated how like sewing and these kind of quote unquote craft things, which are like legit art forms, but because they're associated with women, people would like call it cute or be like, oh my God, you're like a grandma. And, you know, I ended up going to Penn and realizing I didn't love what the fashion industry had to offer. I ended up in finance. But if you look at where I ended up at the end of the day, it is like being entrepreneurial in my own way, building a brand, but the brand is just me, and very much still trying to get fiber arts to be valued as an art form and not as a craft, just because it's historically been a more female dominated space. And so even though it didn't perfectly align with like what I said I was going to do in college. I think the reason I got into Wharton, because not a lot of kids from my high school got into Wharton, and I think it's because we were so STEM heavy. I think they got in because they kind of like saw my entrepreneurial spirit and my love for the arts. Whoa, I have never done that voice before. I I just think it's important to be somewhat authentic to yourself, not even because they can tell if you're authentic or not, right? But because in some weird way, even though it's like rigged in so many different fashions, I do kind of believe in the college admissions process in terms of helping you figure out where you want to end up. I never had a dream school, and I think where you go to school is ultimately not that important. Not to downplay all the opportunities that Penn gave me, like they made doing investment banking like not that hard when it requires your whole badassi at like other schools, you know? I think there's something to be said about it being like a mutual matching process. And I guess my thought process was always like, let me just try and make my application reflect who I am. And whoever like finds it appealing, maybe they will have something to offer me, right? Because first of all, I don't think I would have gotten into good schools trying to be like the STEM kid because there were just so many more legit STEM kids at my school. But also, I wouldn't want to go to a school, like I refused to apply for MIT. I was like, I don't want to go to a school that wants me for like my ability to do math and science because that's not what I want to do. And so just don't try to be like, really try to think about it as like, I'm trying to show them who I am, not I'm trying to impress them. Obviously, like you want to shine yourself in a positive light. And there's the whole like show, not tell thing in your essay. Like don't literally gas yourself up in your essay. It's the way that I record these podcast episodes, and I feel like they give you a kind of good picture of who I am. That is effectively what you're trying to do with the college application process. You're just also trying to look like the most impressive bitch ever. I don't know. My advice on the college admissions process is it's not that important. I think my life would have gone very differently if I hadn't gone to like an Ivy League school and I hadn't gone to Wharton, but I don't think it would have been better or worse, you know? And I think in a lot of ways, I would have just ended up on a very different path that ended at a kind of similar point because like who you are and what you love will end up driving your life path so much more than like what school you end up going to. Okay, I'm going to try and skip some of these like more loaded topics. Like, do you have immigration guilt? How do you have an aura of confidence? Just because I'm going to talk about those for way too long. I kind of want to get through some of the more fun ones. Last time I picked up a clarinet, literally my senior year of high school. I'm actually kind of curious. It's still at home. Maybe I should do this in one of my videos. I would have to buy new reeds though. But like when I'm home, should I try to play the clarinet? I still remember a little bit. It's going to sound really bad though. What's a style that never spoke to you? This one's hard because I was just talking to my friend about how I feel like I can find myself in kind of any style. And I like to take bits and pieces of it, or I like to fully cosplay in it just for shits and giggles. And there are definitely styles that I identify more with, but I do tend to mix it up. I would say probably like very blingy. So like Marissa and Emily both love like sequin dresses, you know, like the really like colorful sequin dresses or like little mini skirts. And those are truly so cute. I don't look at them and go like, that's fugly. It's just something that I have no desire to wear. I think a lot of other styles like preppy, I identify with it a lot less, but it wouldn't feel like an alien experience to put it on my body. But with the sequins, like Emily, one of her batch night themes was like basically like bling bling. And Mar had so many options because she loves her like sparkly stuff. And I tried some stuff on and I was like, I genuinely like don't want to step out in this, which is like a very rare feeling for me because I didn't look bad. It just looked wrong. And then I ended up wearing this like barely sparkly dress, but it was very me. Jewelry tour. You guys need to remind me to do this in another video. I just packed all my jewelry, so I literally have none of it here. I'm also still rebuilding my jewelry collection after it was stolen in Europe. But I get questions about where I get it. And it's like very much a mix of like obviously gifting that I'm fortunate enough to get. Like Amazon, honestly, for a lot of basics, and just like jewelry that I buy overseas and at markets. I feel like my version of like collecting or like souvenirs is jewelry. So every time I go to like Renegade Craft Fair, I'm looking for jewelry. When I go to like Asia or go to Europe, that's like what I'm looking for, just because it's something you could never have too much of, you know? Someone asked, what language do you dream in? English. Guys, my Chinese is not that good. Imagine I dream in Spanish. Someone asked, do you ever get scared about forgetting your Chinese? Duh, I already did. My Chinese peaked when I was like 7. I think going back every year has helped because like the first day I'm back, I'm sounding like a fucking idiot. And then I sound like a little bit less idiotic each day. But it's just like I'm not surrounded by it when I'm here. So I'm losing it at every given moment. I also think I switched to speaking Chinese to my parents. I grew up, they speak Chinese, I speak English. And then I kind of like, it started when I went back to China because I'm not going to speak English to them when I'm around my other Chinese relatives. Like I want everyone to understand me. And then I was like, okay, I'm speaking Chinese to them here. I might as well continue. And it's hard. And when I'm like arguing with my mom about like, you know, why I don't have a husband, I will usually revert to English because I cannot make my point in Chinese. But the practice is definitely good. The last question I will answer, because I feel like I've low-key been talking for a while, is what my MBTI is. Guys, can I even call this a knit with me when I didn't even get to the knitting? And look how much of the knot is still left. This is so depressing. My MBTI, this is like out of all the identifier things like zodiac, love languages, enneagrams, this is the one I identify with the least. I used to get ENFP, and then I was like really not identifying with it after I kind of like rediscovered myself after, you know, not being 17. And I've retaken it a few times and gotten like different answers. But then I read those profiles, I'm like, that doesn't really sound right either. If you look at my results though, for like the 4 different letters, I'm like almost halfway down the middle in all of them. And I feel like that's just a testament. I mentioned this in my like love languages episode. I feel like I am very conflicted on a lot of these things in terms of how I self-identify, like introverted versus extroverted. Like, am I logical or emotional? Because I feel like I have an extremely rational mind, but it's always at odds with me also being a very emotional, reactive person. So I'm just like IDK. And so I just get a different result every time. And I'm like, this is all whack. What is the ENFP? I feel like part of the reason I don't identify with it is because everyone's a fucking ENFP. I've met so many people, a lot of them really annoy me and I feel like have no similarities with me. And they're like, I'm an ENFP. And I'm like, well, if you're an ENFP, then I refute my ENFP status. The campaigner. Extroverted, intuitive, feeling and perceiving. Creative, energetic, and charismatic individuals known for their idealism, imagination, and ability to inspire others, though they may struggle with follow-through on new projects and require flexibility in their work environments. They excel in people-centered careers and value deep, meaningful connections in their personal relationships. Okay, actually, that's not bad. I think where they lose me is the idealism. I'm like very cynical. Like I identify with the creative part and the very like people aspect of it, but I also feel like I am like extremely hard on myself and like kind of neurotic and like overly rational and too grounded in reality and what feels possible based on what's literally in front of me. And that doesn't sound very ENFP to me, but parts of it are definitely right. Maybe I should retake the test and then I can do an episode of my Myers-Briggs. Haha. But yeah, I feel like I've been talking for a long time. And this was fun. I honestly only answered like half the questions. So if you guys like it, I'd be down to do another one. It's like a nice break from me like unpacking the most loaded topics ever. Because I do not feel ready to... The depression episode is like my final boss. My white whale. I'll never feel prepared to do it because I never feel like I'm winning the battle against depression. That bitch be beating my ass. No, but a lot of people asked how I'm doing. I'm doing a lot better. I was not doing so hot in like August, but I feel like I'm on the up. And I feel like we're going to have a good end of the year. And we're going to bring a good energy into 2026. I'm getting ahead of myself, okay? Summer isn't even over. It might be over by the time this video goes up. But as of today, it's not over. Let me show you this unfinished sweater one more time so it feels like we knit in this video even though we didn't knit. Look how pretty. If you want to know what I'm working on, this is going to be my next project vlog, I think. So don't worry, you'll find out what's cooking here or what's not cooking here because look how much of a knot I have left. Okay, enough complaining about the knot. Yeah, thank you for listening. Always open to requests for other podcast topics. And I will see y'all in the next one. Bye, guys.
You left the kitchen light on and it's 2